All right, and we are back. This is GM Farcaster Onchain Media Chat with some folks at FarCon. We're going to be rolling up a few different people. We're starting with Johnny Mack from Hypersub and Fabric, and Nick Hollings from UFO. We're going to start with this chat about on-chain media and creators, and then we're going to roll in a few other folks who are doing that creation. But I wanted to start with you all. So let's talk about, we're going to have a whole day of creator economy today, tomorrow. There's a lot of chat about it. So I really enjoyed the last Many Such Cases, episode 8, where we were talking a lot about stuff and actually solving some problems that I had stuff. So that's good. But thank you. I was like, oh, me too. I'm like, oh, good. I don't have to send this feedback. There it is. So I wanted to talk about. Let me start first with Nick. You had one of the first on-chain, as far as I know, was it the first on-chain podcast on Zora?
Yeah, it was the first one on Zora. So basically, like Zora Network was coming up, and we kind of collaborated in advance. So then I've been doing that show for like 25 episodes or something like that. So it's like bringing the whole catalog and minting it all together.
Okay. So you had the podcast first, but it wasn't on-chain, and then when Zora was like, hey, let's do this.
Exactly.
Cool.
We're like publishing on Mira from the jump, so there was that piece of things. But then when we were able to flip the switch, and so we like an 1155 on Zora, and many such cases these days.
And yours is audio only, right? So
yes.
The first, for those who don't know, the first video one is me. I'm on it. It's me, Tony Hawk, and Luca Nets, Zeropod, because Jacob reached out and said, hey, you should put this on chain. And Tody's like, I can't, the file's too big. And he was like, hold my beer, and then came back and was like, try now, and there you go. So that was a few months after you were already rocking on there. So I know, and this is like just a question for me, because I'm curious. Why have you just focused on audio only? So I know that's something that's important to you. That's why
I come from like a radio background and stuff, so I kind of prefer the audio only format, and like I'm a huge podcast listener as well, so it's kind of a choice between video and not. But I guess like doing a lot of stuff that's in the crypto space as well, like often, if people are anon or whatever, honestly, I feel like there's a bit of magic you can do when it's audio only. You know what I mean? There's a little cutting and stuff like that. So I'm a radio person. I'm like old school.
Trad Rad?
Sorry?
Trad Rad. That's traditional radio.
Yeah. Exactly.
She just made up a new word.
Yeah, that's where I'm from.
Trad Rad is now a thing. It's a Trad Rad guy. Actually, that's traditional radio. Trad Rad.
Yeah. I'm a radio person.
Amazing. And then Johnny, so many such cases. Ted had to zip out over to Farhack. I was trying to get her to jump up too. Yeah, she has to go. She doesn't want to come up. So she's hiding back there. She doesn't want to come up. But so you all decided when you started that podcast to put it on chain also. That to me was also important. When we started GM Farcaster, I knew, because it was about a month after base launch, that L2 made it possible for us to put that on chain and have it make sense. So for a while we were only on chain. We were only on Zora, and then we expanded onto other Web2 platforms. When you guys launched, you did something very similar. So what was that decision? Why did you decide to do it that way?
I think part of it was just wanting to use the tools, that others are building, that we're building, and feel the pain of that, so that we could kind of tighten the feedback loop.
That's good.
And also too, I think we're asking this question. I think about this a lot, which is like, why put anything on chain? Right. And I think a good way to answer that is to just do it, and to learn as you go, and you get insights that you wouldn't otherwise get if you weren't doing this. That was kind of behind the decision for publishing media.
I think also we talk about we get that question a lot, where people go, why should I make this episode? And I think one of the things we did today was drop an NFT that's We Are GM Farcaster, that includes our Hypersub folks. It includes anyone who's ever minted an episode. They're in the background of this art piece. And we couldn't do that if we didn't have that information, that data on chain, because we don't know, we can't tell who on YouTube, has watched it. we wouldn't be able to pinpoint those folks, but we can pull ENSs, we can pull, wallets from having the NFTs. And I just feel like we're going to continuously develop new things and new ways to use that. We token gated this event, not this event, but another event that we did, our happy hour. We token gated that, and that actually led to people grabbing a new Mole subscription to be at the event.
I love the way that Jesse articulated this yesterday when he was talking about Basis. He talked about it as an open substrate. And if you think about any platform, it's like they're trying to convince people to come use their computer.
Yeah.
They're saying, put your stuff, put your attention, put your media, put your interactions on our computer. And what I think the pain that people have felt over time is they're like, okay, fine, I do all that work, but then when a new computer emerges, now I have to start from zero. So all of my preferences, my interests, all that stuff is essentially zeroed out, and I have to start over again. And if you think about what the EVM is, it's an open computer that anybody in the world can use. And it's becoming progressively cheaper to use it. And so the idea that I can start doing things, like I can mint things on chain, I can subscribe to things, I can go to events, I can do all this stuff, there's an on-chain record of that. That now becomes data and actually a whole graph of relationships that I have to other creators, other subscribers, other media, that other systems can make use of. And so it's like, what you just said is starting to kind of demonstrate the promise of putting media on chain. Because you can do things like you would never be able to do that. Like imagine if you're a writer on Substack and you do a podcast. But so now you have a bunch of data on Substack and a bunch of data on Spotify, and they can't talk to each other. They won't talk to each other. And so what that does is it limits the kinds of things that you as the creator of the content can do and the kinds of experiences that the supporter can have. So I feel like this is this kind of a zone. This is where the innovation is going to happen. But it requires people like you and many others to and Nick, be willing to be out on this frontier and try this new stuff. And I think that the more that we do and the more that we kind of collaborate as creators and builders, the more we can demonstrate hey, there's actually real value here. And this is better than the alternatives. So I was very inspired by Jesse's talk, and I'm like, okay, cool, this is a lot of the ideas that we've been having. And I think everyone kind of we were just talking last night, this idea that good ideas emerge in the minds of many at the same time.
Genius.
Exactly. You nailed it. It's you saw this a year ago.
Yeah.
And so it's here we are a year later seeing, big steps toward that, that direction.
One of the other things I could do, which is really cool, is with AirStack, and I don't know if Datastack's here or Alex is here, I could go into AirStack and combine our hypersubs and the FarCon ticket and figure out exactly who is going to be here, who are our subscribers.
Yes.
And that was pretty cool. And have an idea of how many are going to be here.
And you could say, all right, well, we're going to do a private event, we're going to meet and greet at dinner, we're going to do something special for them. And that's really powerful for you and for them. It deepens the connection. And I think that's the future. There'll be more of that.
And the workplace piece too, because then it would give me in this CSV all their names, all their subscriber names, so I could go and even create a group chat if I wanted to, or figure out or talk to these people hey, I know you're going to be here, do you see them or whatever. So there's so much, I think, interesting things you can do with the data if you have it. And I'd love to know, I know you're building a lot of new things with UFO, and how you're thinking about that.
Yeah, just as you guys were speaking to all of this stuff, and it's super relevant to what we're doing at the moment. So I believe later today, we're going to go back to that place later and go shift this thing. So basically, in collaboration with Stack, which you guys may know, so there's those loyalty points kind of attestation kind of piece. So 747 Crash and other communities devoted in using this thing. So non-financialized, non-token kind of points. And so we're using it for UFO, which is an on-chain radio station that's in development, and there's a whole other story and adventure to that. So essentially, because UFO went live with my podcast in September 2022, and so basically with stack, we're able to spin up a thing that's like UFO karma in the style of Reddit karma, is the idea. And so you've collected stuff, minted things, or you have like the Hypersub supporter pass, or this is like quite new that just came out like a month ago. You can attribute all these points to people basically. And the idea is in the future with the on-chain radio station when it goes live, you can imagine something like NTS or a great internet radio station, but with the whole kind of Farcaster and on-chain social graph like baked in kind of thing. And then with like UFO karma or whatever it is, then you can kind of see like, oh, like you can see who's participating the most and all that kind of thing. So when you mint a podcast, you earn points in the moment. If you mint music from the radio stream, like all this type of stuff, and then you can kind of have group chats and all this kind of thing. But I think like again, it's a whole data thing that's going on. So for the first time, by creating that stack thing, we could see a leaderboard, quote unquote. We're not calling it that. But you can kind of see everybody show up, like, oh yeah, there's like a bunch of our friends who've been minting stuff over the run of time, and then we've been jamming a lot with Hypersub and looking at, essentially you can kind of run these like trad rad kind of programs.
Trad rad, it's a thing now.
Genius came out of FarCon 1, Trad rad FarCon 2.
So you can run that game and being like, okay, great, like we can kind of do collaborations or partnerships or what have you with whoever as a radio station and just like bring those benefits to people who have a supporter pass or whatever it might be. So if you're messing about or contributing in the UFO ecosystem and things like that, or other communities around the place, like Hire or Enjoy or various of these ones that can kind of like bounce off each other. And something I was also going to note real quick, just commenting on what you guys were talking about, is we've always thought of the kind of like we're looking at the emerging properties of this. We can now have a graph of like who is listening or subscribing or whatever, and it's all open. So before, a magazine in the late 60s in San Francisco, for example, that has 30,000 subscribers, but they can't meet each other. Like there's no way. It's all whatever. Radio station has a subscription, or you support the radio station. But again, like that data is just on an Excel file or whatever it is. But now it can all be open. Anyone could come and say, oh, we're doing this initiative, or Hire is doing something, and we can just make it available to people in the UFO ecosystem, and vice versa. So the fact that it's all open and composable is super interesting.
I was thinking about that there was an episode I did for Still Here. I was a guest, and I was like, I as just the guest, could activate that for something and give some kind of reward for people who have minted that episode. Hint, hint, you might want to go watch it and look at it and mint it. Just saying.
Yeah, it's a good episode.
Yeah, just saying, it's a good episode if you want to. If you've ever wondered how I got into nouns and all of that, that's a good place to find out. But I think that's really interesting that guests could activate. Anyone can. A brand could come in and go, we think you are the target market for coffee because you do a morning show. So we're going to give this coupon to Happy Friday Coffee. Here you go. And just drop it in the wallet. And that's pretty cool. They're just activated in some way, which is amazing.
You know what I was thinking? I keep hearing the word data. Like this is a panel on like on-chain content. So the question, and Johnny, I love that you're like, we're always thinking about why. And I really like I still identify as a normie.
Which is ridiculous.
I'm very,
I'm sorry, do you own DGen? Do you have DGen in your wallet? Just, come on.
So,
Get over the, you're not a
total
normie.
normal DGen.
She does. She's not a normie.
Okay, so maybe skeptical. Can I say
Yes,
skeptical?
same.
Okay, so yeah, I'm a skeptic.
We'll allow
And,
that word.
So there's people out there I know who just immediately are just like on chain. We just know.
That would be me.
And I get there eventually, but I always want to take the step. So I just appreciate that you're kind of always asking why and not to lose that. But so this is not what my question. Data, and I just found this so interesting because I'm always like, yeah, why? Like, wait, why are we doing a podcast on change? I know that was your idea, but why? And everyone's like, why would I?
Because Jacob told me to.
And I'm only recently, like literally in the past 6 weeks, maybe I'm starting to oh my God, I'm having this crazy light bulb moment.
We activate things.
Because
sometimes it takes time to find, I don't want to use the word utility, but utility.
But
the benefits for the minting.
Yeah,
or
we're just breaking away from it's the novel use cases. It's not like I have my trad rat brain, so I could listen to the radio and get information or consume something. Why do I need to mint it? What is, and everyone's so focused on, so people ask us why do you mint, because they're looking for the benefit to them. But it's the data, it's the open and the composability, and it's the other people being able to tap into it and build on top of it, and it's like dots are connecting. And
one other thing before
shout out
I
many such
forget,
cases.
before I forget too, we're actually giving away a hypersub subscription to the other hypersubs. So we have artists who are creating art for us. And then we're going to take anyone who mints that or we've airdropped, and we're going to pick one randomly and give a subscription to their hypersub. And we couldn't do that if all of that wasn't available.
This is like the network of networks phenomenon that we're seeing, and it's like emerging organically. It's like all these different creators that have their own network of subscribers and supporters are starting to interact with each other, and it's creating these convergences of networks, like these like Max Jackson.
Right, we did that.
Like there's some number of Max Jacksons.
And then we gave away a Max Jackson subscription too. When he did an art piece for us.
And that's mutually beneficial, because there's some number of the subscribers that are not doing Farcaster subscribers and vice versa.
Exactly.
And so it's like there's these mutually beneficial collaborations that can happen. And again, it's like, you can't do that on chain. Or sorry, you can't do that not on chain.
Yeah.
And so like, it's like the other example of saying, oh, you guys do a morning show. I'm a coffee company. Just like I'm gonna insert myself into this.
Yeah.
And I can do that. I think what something Nick said is like, in the past you have these relationships, and it's really like one-to-one. It's like consumer to creator. And I think the internet creates many to many. And I feel like that's becoming true like on chain. It's like you can see like the relationship between the subscribers, between the people that are minting.
Right.
And that becomes super useful.
Totally seen that. We've seen that in our chat, like of people meeting each other and becoming.
And how do you do that when it's all siloed and it's all one-to-one, all isolated from each other? So, and that's super valuable data, and the platforms can use that to their benefit. But what about, can other people, can you guys use it to your benefit?
Right.
Yes, you can, especially when it's in this kind of open, almost open substrate.
So I think this opens into like something that we've like observed from, I guess, Onchain Media or these things. It's like the framing of like why mint it or the minting it. Like minting is a broadcast signal basically. So if I mint my show, whatever, that's a broadcast event. But then every time someone collects it, the whole idea is, this is FarCon. We're talking about Farcaster type stuff. And so if it's next gen social, Twitter's burned to the ground and everything else is like, it's not so useful for coordination or whatever. So for an independent media kind of project, the idea is that we're moving into a world where it's like you discover content through your friends minting it or sharing it. So it's like we're picking up, essentially you're getting recommended content through your social graph or whatever. And that's like a really crucial piece of it, I think. And then, people have been talking about this for a long time. It's like I'm minting someone for music, or I'm subscribing to someone on Hypersub, or I'm minting essays on Mira or Paragraph and stuff like that. It's kind of a way of like tipping or sending a micro reward. It's like writing an essay is a lot of work, and you're like, I read that, I benefit from that. But so I'm minting to signal to my friends that I think this is, this is interesting and great, but it's kind of this loop. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like it's a big part of the next generation of social and whatnot.
Well, we think about, Paragraph is another good example. Like we use Paragraph, we embed our mints into Paragraph, and then that has its own subscribers. So there's all these like interwoven pieces, and all of that. Then you post the Paragraph post on Warpcast, and it's in a frame, and it's like it just we keep building on top of, and it's really interesting seeing all these things kind of come together and work together.
And like one other like quick thing I'll mention as well is like coming from zero, like starting with a brand new podcast and whatever, and you're trying to do that in the traditional way. It's like, how do you start building listeners? Like it takes whatever way. But now you can like drop a free mint or whatever. Like UFO's done this constantly over and over again, or whatever it is, and it's all like distribution. It's all discovery. It's like if you found something from us that you like one thing from us, that's fine. But then essentially, then we can loop you in as a subscriber for the newsletter or something like that. Like it becomes easier and maybe more fun for people to do that. Not to mention, you collect a UFO thing and then your friends over on your wallet or something, or seeing your NFTs or
Interface, like you see the interface thing pop up about this person just minted
or
this.
you drop something that goes trending on mint.fun or whatever, and so it goes like really wide. But there's also like Boost as this thing doing interesting stuff. Like Big Records has been using that, and others as well. Kind of boost the signal. Shout out to Adam Levy from Mint Podcast as well. Like they just he did a recent episode with Alex from Dracula, which had like 40,000 mints or something. I was talking to him last night. It's like, what to deal with that? But it's just all these sort of machinations of these various products and things bouncing off each other. So it's like they mint a thing, then it goes trending on Mint.fun, so then it shows up in Coinbase Wallet in the discovery thing and reaches it. So it's like you kind of break through these tiers where you can reach it like a really broad signal. And then it's always the question of like if someone goes viral on TikTok, usually that's like you can't replicate it. It's just a freak event. But with some of this potentially, it's like we could potentially build a whole radio station on this thing and experiment with different ways of reaching an audience, basically.
100% agree with all of that. There's also like a kind of left curve, version of this, which is just make more money.
I was just going to say, you can't.
All of this results
you start
in
a brand new
better-
podcast. You're not YouTube's not paying you. YouTube, Spotify, they're not paying you. You're not Joe Rogan yet. You're getting zero. But if you do the same thing and drop it on chain, even if you drop it as free, quote unquote, you get creator rewards from Zora. So you're making a little something that at least gives you encouragement to keep going for that time, which is pretty amazing. And Hypersub. Hypersub's the whole. And then Hypersub.
You're seeing like.
And then Hypersub, yeah.
I casted this a few weeks ago. I'm like, many such cases stats so far.
Right.
YouTube 0, Spotify 0, Zora $300, Hypersub $7,000.
Right.
Like, we've been doing this podcast 2 months, 3 months. Like,
yeah,
like this is. I think you guys have
Same.
similar,
Same.
yeah. So it's just like that. That's like if I'm in an elevator with someone and they're a crypto skeptic and they say why crypto, I think the like super condensed answer is you're going to earn more money.
Yeah.
You're going to find your people faster. You're going to earn more money.
And then by with the Hypersub and things like that, you also have more ways, like we just talked about, to actually reward those supporters.
Exactly.
Whereas in a trad rad world, you don't have as many opportunities to do that. It's just harder. It's much harder to find ways to, say thank you to those supporters. And by the way, a reminder, thank you to supporters. Please take all the swag so I don't have to take it back with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So I'm not going to push back a little. Okay.
Yeah,
Here she goes. All
Let's
right.
do it.
So there's kind of the on-chain versus off-chain, Web 2 platforms on-chain. And we can absolutely, I'm not going to argue that on-chain's not better for creators. I'm not on that side. I'm here. Where are we?
I mostly
But
dragged
to
her here, but
say-
it's true.
But to claim like, there's still the challenge of being a creator that can monetize. So there's still,
You have to build audience.
yeah,
have to
you
build
still need an
distribution.
audience.
Yeah.
You talk about your podcast. Ted has like 7 billion followers, I think, and I think you have 7 or 6.9 billion. I think, and you're like that. So you guys had an audience.
Distribution.
You had fans.
Been building.
Yeah, not just so so that's what you're able to monetize that quickly because you've already built your audience.
Yeah.
100%. That's
So
part.
so I can't get in the elevator and look my friend in the face genuinely and say, oh, just start a pod, just start creating.
I think
Because
that,
it just means if you're going to create,
This might be a better
on-chain is
option,
better.
too. Yeah, on-chain is
Yeah.
better, but it won't necessarily be an overnight kind of thing.
I think that's very fair, reasonable pushback. I think that that is also true in the Web 2 world as well. So I feel like those two facts kind of cancel each other out. So it's like if you're talking to someone, they're already building an audience on Twitter or YouTube or whatever, and they're growing and doing it, and that person asks you why you do it on chain, it's like you're definitely gonna make more money.
we agree.
Okay.
Yeah. So you agree, even though you push back, but it was an agreement.
I would also
It's not like last year, not like last year's.
Like, oh, it's so easy. You just go on chain and you'll make money. Like, it doesn't really work that way. But you're two creators. On chain is better
It's a
for
better
creators.
it's a better
And just
opportunity.
apples, yeah.
Yeah. If you're talking to somebody who has zero audience, it's gonna be hard to build an
It
audience.
takes time.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But if you have an audience that you're already building, and I would argue it is you can say that. Now, and like, okay, up to this point, Well, I would say that that's true, but your audience is going to have to bear the crypto UX tax, which is you can pitch a creator, like a Web2 creator, on better economic tools and better network, better distribution, all this stuff. But they say, okay, but what I then have to do is essentially ask my audience to download a wallet, write down a seed phrase, go through
That's true.
KYC, buy some crypto,
Trad wrapping.
The
Yeah.
trad wrap.
do all this bullshit. And what that effectively functions as is a UX tax on their audience. So they say, I'm not doing that. But that's rapidly changing.
Yeah.
With smart wallets, like,
It's just a matter of time.
I'm waiting
Credit
for
card
Kristen to
payments.
come up because
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I'd also like to throw out three quick things, kind of in response to what you guys are talking about. Like, okay, so try and break it down. One is you don't need to be on-chain only. You can be everywhere. It doesn't matter. So,
that's exactly what we're doing.
See,
right?
Kristen?
So, like, you have your stuff on all
we'll
the
talk about it, Kristen. We're
traditional
gonna get to you.
podcast places, but you're minting it too. So, like, people can listen to it however they want. That's fine. But another crucial point is, it seems like a lame phrase, but essentially, like, climb a mountain that you want to climb. Why would you build a following on Instagram or on these things when it's like, or it's like Substack or whatever, but then you're locked into that, or Patreon or whatever. So like, why, knowing how it is, like, why would you build an audience there when you can't export a CSV of your email subscribers, or you're locked in, right? And so, yeah, so I feel like you can play both at once. But like, if I was looking to build an audience, like, I'd be focusing on chain. And like, the third thing that I would say is that because this is like a, like a micro scene, a kind of counter sort of media kind of space to be playing in, like, you're also early. So your ability to find an audience within a space with not that many other competitors and people who are doing stuff, particularly, let's say you want to do a music show or a sports, you could be the first like NBA podcast on chain, like whatever the category is. You're not competing against the entire internet necessarily. Like,
First
you're
Farcaster
gonna have-
podcast on chain, maybe, yeah. But that's exactly why, we did, that's why I focused on that. It was like, okay, this is the thing I'm interested in, and we can be the first. So why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you be?
There's also a whole meta layer to it. Like, so over the run of the last couple of years with the UFO show, like, constantly it's like we're doing stuff, shipping like new things or new integrations between platforms, and then kind of talking about it on the show or whatever it is, or you know what I mean? So it's like it becomes quite meta. Like, we're on an on-chain podcast talking about these things and new tools that have come up, and like the value that we have with UFO is like we are always kind of experimenting and doing new stuff, like just been jamming with hyperservice and new thing and all these sorts of stuff. But the idea is like create it and then share it, like show we did this, you know what I mean? So it's just a constant process of kind of, sharing the tools as they're being developed or whatever it is.
Amazing.
That's another senior shout out.
Yeah, totally. And we're
There's
gonna
rapid exchange of tools.
we're gonna wrap
Sorry,
up this particular segment because we have some other creators we're gonna bring up. But I wanted to throw it to Johnny to talk about HyperSubly 2 and what's coming, and that's for one thing solved my Guava problem. But go ahead, if you can just mention those things that
I'll
are
just
coming.
rattle off a bunch of new features that we're shipping. So we're going to have tiers. We're calling these the hyper tiers.
That's what I wanted.
A tier that can it's your tier, but it's also you can create tiers that are maybe for other creators. So we're thinking of them a little bit like SKUs. We're going to have updatable pricing. We're going to have configurable rewards. We're going to have different price points. So you might have a tier price and a monthly price. So the tier price might be to mint
So
it,
like
it's
an entry,
$1,000.
here's
but
your
it's
membership
$10
entry point,
Yeah.
and then it's this much a month or
You got
something
it.
like that.
You got
Okay.
it. So we're gonna have that. We're
Cool.
gonna have caps on mint time. So you
Right.
could say like, I'm only gonna try this for 2 months. So you can't mint more than 2 months at a time, or more than 2 months period.
Yeah, yes, to crypto did 2 years and it scared me.
Yeah,
I
well,
was like,
it's
oh
funny.
my god.
I get a little. We have refunds already. We have like refunds and grants, which kind of act as like ingress and egress for money.
It was
But when
exciting,
anytime
but I was a
someone-
little, it just made me nervous.
We see that too. Like, I think the other day somebody minted 12 years
Oh god.
on the proxy stuff.
I
And
would
I was
lose
like,
it.
oh
I would lose
wow,
it.
that's a long
That's a
time.
lot.
I think we have over 1,000 years of total time that's been minted, like just like aggregated across everything. So yeah, so you'll be able to be like, you know what, thanks, but no thanks. Actually,
I mean, I'm
We
not
don't
gonna
want
say
anyone
no
to-
thanks, but for that one, but if
That's
somebody
gonna
did
be
12 years, I'd be like, you know how old I am? Like, maybe
Yes.
we don't, yeah. Maybe not 12 years. I'm not sure exactly if I'll be doing this from the home, but
And
maybe.
the last thing is we're gonna have you can send money to the reward pool from external sources.
Ooh, cool.
So if you guys wanted to have a splits contract, say for the one-off mints, and some percentage of those mints to flow back into the subscriber reward pool, you could do that.
That's cool. I like that.
So between that and configuring
that would be
the
really
curve,
helpful for what we're going to build with doing Farcaster Network to have
exactly.
something that would be perfect for something like that.
And creators can do this with each other. So you can have collabs with creators where they're maybe working on projects and kind of sharing some of the upside that comes from it. So
how about a allow listing? That works better than the way we jankied it.
That actually, that jank solution that we came up with is why we're doing it right in V2.
This is me in nonlinears, like DC's going, I want to do this. And they're like, we can't do that. I'm like, well, see if you can figure it out.
And then I was like, we figured it out.
Okay, we figured it out.
It's just going to take a couple steps.
Yeah, so it'll just get easier.
Yeah, so we'll have that as well as on-chain token data, basically.
Great. Well, we're so appreciative.
Oh,
And I love being on Hypersub. I love how we also, like, we're just talking that, like, whatever it looks like today, we know it's not going to look like that a year from now. So it's just,
you just got to keep rolling.
What's the step now? What are we doing now to advance us one small step towards better, you know?
One small step.
Well, I
don't even know.
I'm grateful
We'll get
for you
there.
guys. I feel like you guys are on the frontier. You're doing interesting things. You're thinking new thoughts. That's super valuable information to us and with Nick. So I just, I wake up every day feeling grateful and stressed about how we're going to
Same. Grateful and stressed is our daily feels.
It's going to be the name of my autobiography.
Grateful and stressed.
My life as a crypto founder.
That's pretty much
That's a good one.
That's really good. Nick, do you want to mention anything? I know you have a lot happening with UFO. What should people be looking for right now or looking ahead to?
Sure. Yeah, there's a bunch. I guess like the easiest shout out is like come join the UFO channel on Warpcast. I guess sometime in the next 24 hours, might be in the next hour, but we're releasing it. I guess it'll be at karma.ufo.fm. So we're going to spin up this thing with the UFO Karma thing in collaboration with Hypersub. And I guess I would shout out the supporter pass on UFO as well. Check out what's happening there, but it's new. We're experimenting with it. Pretty excited about it.
That's on Hypersub as well.
Yes.
That's supporter pass. Because I know you had a creator pass for a while too.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the supporter pass I guess will be on that karma.ufo.fm. You can check it out there. But early days for this sort of Reddit karma.
This is all of us.
Experiment.
All early days. All right, amazing. And if you want to just leave your mics there, we're going to bring up Humpty and Lucas. Are you here somewhere? Come on up. Lucas, you're up next. And then we're going to go to Kristen, Alina, and maybe Cody if he shows up. Amazing. And we're just going to keep rolling and talking about Onchain Media. So we got Humpty coming up to the stage. Thank you, Nick and Nonlinear joining back. And if you haven't listened to many such cases, go listen to that too. It's Ted and Johnny's podcast that gets a little deeper dives into Farcaster, deeper than we go. So and it's usually pretty amazing. Welcome to the stage. We got Lucas from pods.media and Humpty, who is an amazing podcast creator as well. Do you guys want to grab your mics and just do a quick intro and share what you do? I just did a quick, 2 seconds, but go ahead and share introduce yourselves to the folks. Is it on? Oh, did you turn it off?
Testing.
I'm going to take it from him and just turn it on. Lucas, you go while we think. Oh, geez. Okay. Now test it.
Testing.
There we go. We are professional podcasters. Can't you tell? All of us on stage. Can't run microphones. I know. I believe me. The live takes it a whole different level. Usually you're just sitting behind your computer, get it all set up, but it's a whole
You
different.
only have like 30 minutes at least to set up all your technology,
Right.
just to make sure everything is working.
Exactly.
And even then, you have like a 5-minute countdown. You're like, but yeah, everybody, super excited to be up here. Obviously, been following your work for a long time, and Lucas is as well. So a little bit about myself, I guess. In terms of the media side of things, I've been a content creator since the Clubhouse days. I had a club there. It's called DeFi. Had 40,000 members.
Everybody remember Clubhouse?
Yeah, baby. And it wasn't really just focused on DeFi, funnily enough. We just kind of grew the channel around that. But I had Bankless DAO come up. This is like when season 0 was about to launch. and I wanted to learn a little bit about what they were doing. And they invited me to come to their Discord and basically do what I was doing on Clubhouse with them. They gave me my first grant, and Crypto Sapiens was born there.
Cool.
Yeah, so that was like Crypto Sapiens and Bankos DAO, I guess, were born around the same time. And yeah, it evolved from there, went on to Twitter Spaces, and eventually I started leveraging a lot of the Web2 tools to build it out more as a podcast and not just like these one-off events. And now with Farcaster and with all the on-chain media tools that exist, it's become something extremely fun and collaborative. So I'm very excited about having that conversation today because obviously we use Pods as our distribution platform for the long-form content. We use Zora for our short-form content. We're using Paragraph for our written content. Oh my gosh, I heard people talking about Stack. We just integrated, we just integrated Stack to do the on-chain points, Bonfire to do community building. So yeah, it's just a really fun time to be a creator right now.
And Lucas, you want to intro Pods?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Pods Up Media?
So I'm the founder of Pods, or Pods Up Media. We are bringing podcasts on chain. So we provide an easy tool to publish your podcast on chain and hopefully online soon in the same flow. But yeah, prior to Pods, I was a first employee at Bankless, worked there for 3 years, led the newsletter, led a lot of growth there, helped launch Bankless DAO, handful of other initiatives, as well as being a partner at FireEyes, where we help launch a lot of token governance systems like OP, ENS, Super, and a bunch of others. But now I'm all in on on-chain media. After working at Bankless for 3 years, I got really tired of all these media companies, all these crypto media companies talking all day, every day about how fantastic this technology is, and then skipping to ads, just running the same Web2 playbook. And I got really kind of frustrated with that. And it wasn't just Bankless, it was everyone. And I really took it upon myself to kind of just go down this rabbit hole of like, how do we use this technology that we're talking all day that's so phenomenal, that we're, is so valuable for us, and how do we apply it to media? How do we change the business model there? And the first thing that came up was publish all your content on chain, make it mintable, make it ownable by the community. This provides a new monetization model for creators that's not advertisement based. And it also allows you to build a granular social graph of your biggest fans. So you can identify who's been the earliest person, who's the most active, who's the most engaged, and allow those individuals, those viewers to express their affinity for you.
Amazing.
And can I just give you your flowers? Because before using Pods, I was using Lenster to publish on Lens. And it wasn't just...
What's that thing? I've never heard of that.
You said the L word here?
There's some, I know, how dare
I'm
you?
just going to let you know. I mean, and I'm not trying to throw any shade here, but it was not just
We're fine.
difficult, but it was also expensive. And when I started using Pods, I was just mind blown at how simple the process was, but also how, I can't even call it cheap because it was almost free to publish on Pods. And the distribution is built in because the community that's growing around the Pods ecosystem, including creators, but also collectors, I think just kind of facilitates that relationship. You bootstrap that relationship, just like building on Farcaster does as well. So I just want to give you your flowers and thank you and the whole team over there at Pods.
I mean, thank God to Base for just like really pushing forward this migration to L2s. Like last summer around this time, like no one was using L2s. We were still minting all of our content at Bankless on Ethereum mainnet.
We
charging.
couldn't do this. We
Yeah.
could not do what we're doing
We-
if we were on mainnet. There's no way.
Yeah,
It
we
would
were
be
charging,
impossible.
I think, 0.05 ETH per episode. And
That's
collectors were paying
yeah.
0.040 in gas fees on top of that.
That's
So like we
insane.
couldn't even go lower if we wanted to, right? Like
Yeah.
you just were prohibited from doing that. And this massive migration to layer 2 really helped kind of usher in this like just I think on Pods right now, or even probably Zora, it's very similar.
Yep.
$5 gets you a whole year of publishing. It's about 8 cents to publish right now per episode. So you do an episode a week, like you need $3-4 to publish all your content on chain.
Yeah, it's made it so accessible, and I think that is a huge unlock for our creators right now. Huge. So I just want to ask a quick question before I forget. Pods.media is still audio only?
Yeah, so we're still audio only, supporting videos. And
I mean, can we also
Now
talk
we can
about?
talk.
Can we talk about the fact that with Pods, and you can dive deeper into this, but you have an RSS feed that you can also add to your favorite podcast player. So I mean, I heard UFO just talking about that ability to like be
I've been wanting
radio
Zora to do
friendly.
that. I'm like,
Trad
Zora, do
rat.
you
Sorry, I
have
wanted to
RSS
use
feed?
the word because I want to make sure it
Trad rat.
sticks. Yeah, that trad
Trad
rat
rat, it's a
experience.
thing. Making it a thing.
So, I mean, I think that for me, the audio only piece of it is actually quite important too, in terms of the accessibility beyond just maybe video clients or, on-chain clients too.
Yeah, the lucky thing is that you can still extrapolate the MP3 from a video, so you can still upload a video and still generate the RSS. That has been like probably one of my favorite pieces of tech that we've released, and it was entirely due to the fact that we could just specialize entirely on podcasts, and we can fit the metadata that you are filling out for your episodes to just fit an RSS feed, and then we can just generate your own self-sovereign, 100% owned by you RSS feed that you kind of own and control, because it's just based on your Ethereum contracts that are owned by you and not us. So that's a really novel feature. Probably more under the radar than we think right now, or we'd like to have. But yeah, I think it was one of my favorite pieces.
I'm afraid to ask question. I'm the dumb one.
Go for it.
Okay.
There's like not. There's zero, absolutely, just for the
Okay,
for the
just
record,
like-
there's
just
not
like-
a person in this space.
My
that's a
brain is
dumb
like,
one.
oh yeah, okay, fine.
We're all left here.
Yeah, I like to be the dumb one in the room at least. So I publish on pods. My content's on chain, or not on chain, but somewhat
Mostly on chain.
Okay, but there's an NFT, yada yada yada. Okay, you'll create an RSS that I can then send out to. So my
You
pod
can,
shows up on Spotify, Apple,
so
all the
you-
places, but the hosting, like they're gonna pull, like the content lives on chain.
Right. So you can submit the RSS feed
I
from
wasn't-
pods
I just
to
needed to know if I
Spotify.
understood that.
Yeah. So we dogfooded this with, I have like a small podcast called the Podcast, just around Onchain Media. I just started it, but we only use pods, and you can find it on Spotify because we submitted our RSS feed that's derived from the Onchain contracts to Spotify. Worked perfectly. It was up on Spotify in about 2 hours.
Oh, amazing. So, because right now we're doing it like manually. So we go on chain first on Zora, and then we pull. She downloads it, and we do this very decentralized. I do that part of it. She grabs the download, puts it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all the things through the RSS. So she'll grab the audio will upload from there for the ones that just audio only. And it's been working pretty well, but always could look for easier ways to do this. So and especially there's going to be creators who don't want to work that hard,
Right.
who
That's-
just want it to be. They just want to create, and they
Yeah.
don't want to have to do all of that in the background. And that sounds like it's going to be much easier that way.
Like our mantra right now is like just assume that creators have 1% of their brain power purchased, and like
Yeah.
how do you build for that?
Yeah.
Because we have like a creator, we joke about it. He hosts Alfalfa. His name is Steven. And it's like a bankless adjacent podcast, but he's the most like just loose cannon. You can't get him to do
Bankless
anything. And every time it's like, let's just design a product for Steven. 'Cause if we
That's
can
so
do
funny.
that and get him to use it, then we're so golden.
That's hilarious. I do want to shout out Onchain Media channel, which I started, but I added you and Dan Simmons as co-hosts, so we co-host that channel. But if you are creating on-chain content, and it can be anything, it doesn't have to be podcasts, add it in there, and we'll pin it, we'll recast it. It doesn't have to be part of the Farcaster Network or part of pods. It can be anything. We want to make sure we're promoting everybody's stuff, and that's like the abundance concept, the Senius, all of that coming together, and make sure we're promoting each other to all these things. So I want to do a quick wrap so we can bring up the rest of our creators and then get to our little meetup and chat with everybody and get to know everyone. So what else do you have going on right now that you want everybody to know about? This can be either one of you can start.
Sure. So we're
Some of
launching.
your call to actions.
Yeah, we're launching our first on-chain media game later this month.
Ooh,
Yeah, so one of the things that I've been talking
Say
and
more.
kind of workshopping at
Yeah.
the booth, if you want to go check out Crypto Sapiens merch, there's a whole conversation to be had. You can find me on the booth or later in the on-chain media meetup. But there's this conversation that I've been trying to workshop, and that is there are incentives for creators to go on-chain. There's very little incentive for collectors to do anything.
Sure.
Like, why should they mint anything? It's a very transactional relationship. How can we go beyond that? And I've really been studying study meme coins for the last, I know, the fact that you have to say
Like
research.
research.
Is that what we're calling it now?
Yeah,
We're calling it study.
You're the
Due
professor,
diligence.
I do the homework, okay? So I've been doing the research and trying to understand like what is the value prop of meme coins. And really I feel like the strongest proposition of it is the fact that it's the loyalty mechanism for on-chain communities. And so for collectors to go beyond just transactional relationships, we are using Stack to analyze all of our collector behavior over time. We're going back to like season 0 at Bankless DAO when we were just issuing POAPs and applying a value to all of that activity and then deriving some score, right, or karma, as UFO was talking about that, in order to retroactively reward these collectors, right, or these participants with some,
And by the way, you can only do that because it's on chain.
exactly.
And that's like,
Exactly.
so anytime somebody asks you why on chain, that's
Right.
why. There's,
And so-
you can go retroactively back. You couldn't
100%.
do that.
Exactly.
You couldn't do that else.
So that's
if it
the
wasn't on
optimism
chain.
model, right? Retro PGF, I think, I tip my hat. And so, anyway, not to get too far from the point, season 1 is going to be us looking back at our, participants, collectors, rewarding them in VGen. Season 2, we're going to be inviting over 100 creators. Everyone in this community that's been here, that considers themselves a creator, I want to talk to you because we want to then aggregate all this data and launch a meme coin that just supports creators specifically around
Cool.
this initiative. So season
All right,
1 starting
interesting.
later this month.
He's studying meme coins. We call that, losing money, but whatever. It's fine. It's fine. I also I call them learning experiences. Oh, that tanked. Oh, that was a nice learning experience. There we go.
Just gotta get into it high. Like this only goes high.
I know. Well, I am just so, by the way, I can't believe you got the tattoo. He really did. He got the tattoo. But I don't think Six is here, but Six, who I know is Onion, who I go way back with, it's to me like he and Martin, like I've known these guys for a while through Nouns, and it's just so funny to me that this has like taken its own life, and I mean it's life of its own, and it's just so fun to see and Light and all these guys. So it's hilarious to me though, because I'm like, that's just Onion. That's just Onion doing his thing. So Lucas, any call to actions or things you want to highlight real quick before we switch to our next curve?
Yeah, I mean, we're actively publishing new podcasts every day. There's just a new homepage to help with discovery, which is a big issue for podcasts right now. Doubling down on the RSS stuff, specializing on podcasts, video soon, a whole bunch of fun features like that. Yeah, we're shipping every week.
Amazing.
All
All right, congratulations. Keep shipping. Keep
you.
shipping. The shipping will continue until QDAO is reached.
Thank you guys so much because you guys have been absolutely phenomenal and just like pushing the on-chain media narrative. And it's really cool because like a year ago when I was starting this, no one believed me. No, everyone thought I was a fucking psycho. And especially Farcaster, the Farcaster community has just been so receptive to it. And I feel like we've done this 0 to 1 where like the meme is now, it's real. Like people get the on-chain media meme. It's not just me trying to beg Ryan and David to please release the content on chain. They're like, why would anyone ever fucking do that? It's like,
I will say I've always loved every time Bankless says that it was hilarious. They had Dan on and they were talking about Farcaster and they're like, we're calling it early. I'm like, listen, dude, we called it way earlier. You're like, you're not early at all, dude. We've been already calling this. It's been called.
I just love like some of the keywords I keep hearing is collaborative and fun. Like
Grab everything in a box of them. Yeah.
super
Amazing. So you guys are going to stick around for the meetup. We're going to bring up Kristen, Alina, and if Toady Hawk, if you are somewhere in the building and can hear me, come on up. And if you're not, oh well. I'm going to get you late. I'm going to be pissed off at you later. Just kidding. Love you, Toady. You can just leave that there, and we'll chat in just a little bit. We're back. Yeah, we are hard stop at 11:30, and then we have an Onchain Media meetup. I believe we're going to be on the 3rd floor unless they have moved us to just staying in the courtyard, but I will double check that at the very end. And we have Kristen and Alina here, and I want you guys to do a quick intro on what you're building and who you are. So, Alina?
Hi everybody, I'm Alina and I'm a normie. That being said, we already have Nick who comes from Trend Red. I also come from traditional media, but more on the film and TV side. Basically, if you've ever watched a movie on Netflix or watched a show like after Super Bowl, you've dealt with.
Grab that mic, Tody, and there's a
Oh,
chair.
Tody,
You're bringing your own
yay.
stuff up to the stage.
That's all good.
Super leader.
I was being a base builder.
Well, you know what, dude? I was like, if he gets there in time, he can come up. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Because we had a hard stop at 11:30. So bring your chair and come on up. Okay, Alina, continue.
Yeah, so if you ever watched a movie on Netflix, you just watched regular traditional TV, this means you've engaged with some of the content that my team has worked on. Yeah. I'm not even going to go into detail, but it's regular traditional media, film, TV, everything you can rent or buy, watch in the movie theater. So I also dabbled in content creation too. Like Humpty started out on Clubhouse. Yay. Good old days, right?
The good old days of 2020 and 2021.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And I also did some on-chain stuff too. Had a very small podcast about another protocol, which I'm not going to name here.
Don't name it.
I'm not naming it.
It's not allowed.
But I had some podcasting experience, and I just love storytelling in general, whether it's podcasting, videos. Let's say if I'm not very popular podcaster yet, but people who have followed me for a while, they know that basically my whole feed is just, oh, what happened to this girl today? What kind of drama is going on again? And it's a fun thing to dip your toes in, and that's it, I guess.
And we're excited to see what you're going to be building on chain more.
Ooh,
Excited to see what you're
I
gonna
kind
be
of,
building.
well, for now, I'm again trying to figure out what I actually want to do. Right now, it's more of a like personality-based show. So my show is going to be an extension of my channel, just regular shenanigans, talking about nothing.
I think there was a show like that in the 90s that did pretty well.
Exactly.
I think you'll do well with that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what's the deal with
Turn your
that?
mic on.
Yeah.
I
So
think your mic's up.
your mic's up. Yeah.
Is it on? Okay.
Is it on? Okay.
And then, Kristen, if you want to talk about your podcast and what you guys are doing, go ahead. And also, can you actually, I would love to hear your pronunciation of the name of your podcast.
Hey everyone, my name is Kristen. I'm also known as Chris, and I have
There
a
it is,
show
Fee
with
Chris.
yes, exactly. I have a show with my co-host Art Lou, who can't be here today, and he is Farthead. And we have a podcast that's all for the Farcaster middle class. Maybe that is you.
Not the aristocracy,
Exactly.
just the middle class.
Exactly. We use a mix of so GRF, so we have an astonishing mix of highbrow and lowbrow humor. As we talk about how to create an inclusive and welcoming environment for people who are new to the ecosystem.
Amazing. And Tony Hawk, welcome to the stage.
Hello,
Who
hello.
the heck are you?
My main gig is filling in for Adrian.
Yes.
Adrian
Also
Farcaster,
known as
another
not
show.
Adrian Dottie.
No, I founded the Noun Square, which is an on-chain media collective a couple years ago. We have a podcast called Zero Pod that is both on-chain and off-chain, but we're trying to push it more and more on-chain as much as possible. We've had some great guests like Jesse from Base has been on, Noun 40, Han Kim, the CTO of Bitwise, has been on recently, and we're having a lot of fun with it over the last 3 months.
And I gave you a shout out earlier. You weren't here yet, but
I'll take
you
your
were.
word for it.
Yeah, I was nice. So UFO was the first podcast on Zora,
Yes.
audio only, but Zero Pod, #1, with me, you, and Lucanets was the first video podcast on chain.
I think
on
that might
Zora.
be the case,
I
yeah.
believe so.
And shout out to Nick. I see him over there chatting about higher stuff.
Yep, yep, he is. Is it, by the way, I just keep cracking up about that. I'm like, it's just onion. I'm like, this is so weird. And they're just like taking out something.
But yeah, Nick from UFO was a big influence on that front. And also Jacob from Zora, he just messaged me, he's like, why aren't your podcasts, on chain? They should be. Thank you to the Zora team for being super patient with me, constantly bug reporting, because it's IPFS doesn't play super great with big video files, but we've figured it out, and we've got 25 episodes.
I had some issues last week.
But we're early,
But we're early. I think
someone was complaining about.
It's a great point.
Someone was complaining on Farcaster about Zora uploading it for live video.
Might have been me.
Was
that Prof? I think that was me.
This time it wasn't Prof.
Last week.
Real preference.
But it's like where exactly? Real preference. There's nowhere else to do it. They're so early, and they're leading the way with with that sort of thing. And I've spoken to Jacob. Jacob was on our podcast and spoke a lot about how they're going to be making a lot of efforts for discoverability, which I think is a big issue, or a big need anyway for on-chain content. And so I'm excited to see what Zora does on that front, and just making it easier for on-chain content to be discovered and found and enjoyed. So.
I think you make a good point that, and you did say, Kristen, that when we are so early, it is hard. You have to have some kind of resilience and also flexibility to deal with things when they get buggy, when things don't go the way you want to, when you literally watch it going uploading for 2-3 hours, and this is not uploading. I know it says 100%, but I know this is not uploading.
And if we grew up in the 90s, so we're used to waiting for a long time for stuff.
I think that's it.
Exactly.
I think that's it.
I'm used to waiting for images to load like this.
This is where, if you're a Gen Xer, it actually comes in handy. Like, it's actually our elder millennial.
Yes, we
comes
do.
in handy. If you have not experienced Cody and I talking to each other, this is what it's like all the time. This is my brother from another mother. So I want to talk to Kristen real quick about you're like, we're going to be on-chain only. That's how I started. And I did say, like, we were going to start on-chain, but I knew eventually we were going to move to the Web 2 things as long as we found the audience and stuff. But why are you making that commitment to only be on-chain?
I think it's like just like everyone else, right? When you start something new, you have to differentiate somehow. So we make our lives so difficult for ourselves because it solves really interesting problems. It's like we're going to find out, how do you get the sense of who is even watching if you're only on Zora? How do you get people into apps like Interface? Because if you try to watch on Zora, it's going to hang midway. People are going to complain. So I think it's like by taking on the problems ourselves, we're able to pave the way for future creators to not experience the same problems.
But on the flip side, though, like, ownership is really powerful. So maybe you don't have these great vanity metrics, like this many thousands of people are watching you on YouTube or subscribing on Spotify, but maybe you're seeing 1,000 people actually paid to own your content, which is really powerful. Or maybe you use Zora Boost and you paid for it, so they didn't buy it, but they still own it, And I made this joke with Jacob when he was on our podcast. It's like, if someone doesn't like your podcast on YouTube, they can leave a mean comment, but they have to send your on-chain podcast to the burnout.
So they gotta send it to dead. They're dead. Yeah.
It's a lot harder.
That's a lot. We're making a lot more friction for you to hate us.
So when you hate us, we know you
really is, because the only way you could actually leave a comment on Zora, you'll have to mint it. So you'll have to still own it and pay us, and then you can leave a mean comment.
Please tip us also and enjoy when you leave
Yes,
a mean
we love that
comment.
too.
Thank you.
We enjoy your mean comments.
We enjoy your mean comments. And Alina, you mentioned, coming from the, I don't know what we're going to call it. It's not trad rad, so it's trad movie, trad. We'll figure it out. We'll work on that. Trad media. When you think about on-chain media, what is your thinking in terms of how is that compared to your experience with things like Netflix and doing sort of the traditional, I don't even want to call them Web 2 because you may even go beyond that. And why are you now thinking and leaning into on-chain?
Well, first of all, again, coming from traditional media, I think that on-chain is able to solve a lot of our business-related issues. A very popular one that everyone brings up is royalties to creators. And we're talking everyone, including big B-list stars. For example, a thing that Taylor Swift did very recently, they made that Eras Tour movie. which went directly to movie theaters. They did not have a proper distributor, which is absolutely the same for my industry. So on-chain will facilitate this for everybody. There are other things that are purely technical. For example, let's say we talk about watermarking content. If you're a movie studio, for example, you have like a big release, which is in the theaters. Obviously, you're prepping for digital distribution, something like this. Things happen. There are system errors, there are human errors. Something goes out early. It's usually a very big deal. I think on-chain and like protocols, contracts would help us elevate a lot of things, both legally, creatively, and obviously we're talking about like the financial side of it, like monetizing. There's there are many such pieces where we could use that even in our industry. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going there that fast. We're getting there like at a snail pace at this point, but there's a lot to explore.
Than Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
We're earlier than Taylor Swift is always said.
Yeah.
But someday she'll be right there with us. Okay, so we need to start wrapping up. So I want to give each of you like one, last call to action. Tell people where they can find you, but also what are you doing, what's new, what's happening, and what should we be looking forward to?
Sure. So you can find the B Person Barhead Show at the BCBH Show channel.
We need a better name. I'm just saying.
We're sponsored by our friends of the show, Proxy Studio, Farcaster, Borough Dutch. And so for us, we're really excited to bring forth all these exciting sponsored content, and we definitely would appreciate you joining our show on Live on Unlowly on Tuesdays at 8 a.m. PST.
8 a.m. PST? Okay, 11 a.m. Eastern. Okay, like
11 a.m. Eastern and
You're
3
before us? I
p.m.
thought you were
Let's go
after.
kind of always complain.
Okay.
3 p.m. UTC.
Okay, got it. We need one freaking time zone. Yeah. Alina.
I want a good showing, a very basic show for you guys. It's both channel, and I'm gonna do some videos too, live videos, and I'll try to work with the audiences. We'll see how that goes. But again, show about nothing, like one small show from the 90s, and we'll see where it goes from there.
All right. And Toading Hawk, where do we find you?
So, yeah, I have a two-pronged show. One is for Zero Pod, which is our podcast about living life on chain and enjoying Ethereum. You can find that at zeropod.xyz, both on-chain and off-chain, available at that website. You can also find the Yellow Collective, which is where I spend the bulk of the rest of my efforts on-chain, which was one of the first non-DAO DAOs to be founded on Base. It's an on-chain culture club is what we call it, but it's all about finding and empowering artists and creators on-chain. You can check that out at yellowcollective.xyz. It's a fork of Nouns DAO, if you've heard of Nouns, on Base, and we have a lot of fun. So.
And using Nouns Builder, who is the sponsor of this event today, sponsored all the food and the glasses. So grab the glasses, grab some swag, hang out if you're here for the Onchain Media meetup. I believe we're going to be on the 3rd floor. Let me confirm with someone real quick, and we'll get that nailed down. And that's it for us.
Speaking of swag, there's swag inside too.
There's also a bunch of things to go buy and grab and pick up. So make sure you're on chain. You can buy it on chain. Ours are all free, so please take water bottles, take mugs, take all the things. And we will see you on chain. And with that, and t-shirts, grab t-shirts. And with that, bye-bye.